Oh, wow.
Saw it twice, so I was like, oh my god.
That was just weird.
I always used to see a light coming up,
Yeah.
like a headlight, but there was nobody there.
Oh, it's just disappeared.
Hello everybody, hope you've all had a great weekend and great to be here again. Or is it these Sundays come around too quick for me? Or is it that as we're getting older everybody says time flies, which seems to be, doesn't it? But no complaints, onwards. It's just got me tonight, guys, sorry to say. So let's have some questions. I did say I'd save questions or I'd gather them up from last week, and I did. I don't know where I've put them. They're in a folder somewhere. So nobody to blame but myself, because there were about 6 or 7 questions there that we could have addressed straight away. And we'd have been up and running, but we're not, are we? So it's down to you guys. And I see we've got what we got. We got like, oh, wow. Well, going on for 150 people. So thanks for support as always every week. And yeah, where are we going with this? Let's just have a look who's in. Karen Behrman, Gavin Still Crazy, Susan Wiseman, Mel Suter. Let's have a look. Annie French Boynton, Mag Sue, Moondog, Gemma doing moderating. Robert Hilton, I think Lee's doing moderating. Ian Langton, Lisa, good to see you, Lisa. Paranormal Visitors, that's Lee, isn't it? I think we've got to what did he call his site today, Andy? Shadows and Sightings. Don't forget, get over to it. Blue Shift Rob, good to see you, mate. Peter Armstrong and Des and Michelle. As always, you know, I ain't going to get through all these names. I don't know if Lynn is in. If you are, mate, it was good to spend some time with you on Friday. Mrs. Linney, Mia Girl, Pete will be in, I hope. I'll see you tomorrow, Pete. All being well. And we said Moondog, didn't we? And James. And we're going to have to just sort of wind it down now, because otherwise I'm just calling names out all the time, aren't I? But yeah, what's been happening in the world of the strange and unusual? Anything? Because there's been a few things happen where we are. And it's not all concerned us. Literally 10 minutes before I come on air, a guy from Hornsey called, Miss Steve, former diver, and he'd actually called about 6, but I just picked my phone up and I saw a message. I gave him a quick call, and he's got a camper, you know, little mobile home that him and his wife go away in, and they'd been down the coast, I think, you know, towards Hullrome and around that area, and he's looking out to sea about midnight, sat on the edge of this cliff. They're not like Bempton cliffs, they're just little sand dune type cliffs. With his mate, he said he was a total skeptic. And monstrous white light just appeared, stationary, and then just sped off. I said I'd call him tomorrow. I do understand, you know, when I'm saying this, that there could be a perfectly earthbound explanation. So for those people that think I think everything's from outer space or from somewhere else, that's not the case. Interestingly, this week out in Bridlington Bay, I've not really paid much attention to it, but some people in chat might, if you're from area. There's been a Navy warship in Bay and some Chinook helicopters over it. Apparently, a friend of mine, Pete, said that they seem to be looking for something. Well, I'm not sure about that. It could be right. There's been a military aircraft circling as well. So that's interesting in itself. But with everything that's going off in the world, it could just be on exercise, couldn't it? Routine exercise. So we don't need to, you know, read too much into it. I've got a little report to read to you, but I didn't expect questions to come like that so soon. But I'm not complaining, Simon. Thank you. Let's just have a look at this, if it is a question. Just wanted to say we were in Borsholm last week and we saw lights in the sky. You mentioned on last transmission the ones that were similar to Starlink, but more bunched together. Yeah, that's correct, Simon. And do you know what, mate? I think it's been explained. I think they said it was some kind of new Chinese satellite or some Chinese tech, and once again I didn't look into it with great detail. Once I found out they were an earthly origin, I tend to switch off, but there were definitely some vapor trail, but there were a detachment from the object to the vapor trail, you know. And if you look on stream, you'll see what I'm talking about. But that definitely followed the object. So we think we might have solved that one, Simon. But thank you. Yeah, it were interesting, weren't it? I mean, and we've been up there odd times this week, and we've looked, and we've not seen it since. We've seen the green satellites. Right, let's just have a look what we've got here. And then I'm going to just do this report here. This Paul, we haven't seen Les on screen with you for a while. Please let us know he's all right. Yes, Les is okay. Lynch, Les is fine. Les is involved in some work on Hull Marina at the moment, doing his own thing, and I'm doing my own thing, and I'm quite happy doing it. But thank you. So we'll just clear that one up. Let's have a look. So I want to get to this report that. And it's not, once again, there could be an earthly explanation, but it's interesting. There's a little bit of footage, so I'm going to give you the background on it. Then you guys can make your own minds up, just like I'm doing. So there's a couple, and Alison and Brian live in County Durham. And on Thursday, the 28th, they saw something unusual on a camera from their home. So we'll break it down. They recently installed a camera in the back garden, which overlooks their garden, fields, hillside and trees. Yeah, they'd gone to bed early, and they were lying in bed the other night. She says last night, because this is that message came to me, and we decided to look at the sky via the camera. Upon opening the app, we thought there was a huge fire in the trees. So that's what they're looking at. They can see this in the distance, a fire, and that's what it looked like to them. However, looking out of the window, nothing to see. So they're looking at the same view as the camera. The camera's probably only project. If you're at window, it's fixed on wall. It's only projecting forward another foot, 2 foot at most. So they're looking at the same thing, but they can't see it. I suggested it could have been some infrared light that were in those woodlands, and it could well be, because we know that night vision, or most night vision, would pick that up. So there was nothing to see except do that with my finger to get this little bit of paper out. You do that, don't you? Except but blackness. Where the fire was situated, trees, heather, wasteland, no roads, no cars, nothing behind it. So they became interested. They said, I've attached a video of where the fire starts, and it gets bigger and dies down and then gets bigger. And they have, and they sent me I think they sent me 6 videos of this. Well, obviously I'm not going to subject you guys to looking at 6 videos of lights on an hillside for like 5 or 10 minutes each time. So I've just broke it down into the little bits, and I just thought it were interesting, and we'll get to it in a moment. Unfortunately, the few seconds, the fire got bigger. Then unfortunately, there's a few seconds where it disappears, goes out. It didn't record. No idea why, as it was working fine all the time, and it's worked all fine before and after that. Perfect up to that point and perfect afterwards, which is interesting in itself, isn't it? Come on, let's. These things do happen, and do we attach a paranormal element? I don't know. Just a quirky coincidence, maybe. See, I wanted to show me cup. Right, let's have a look. I've also attached a still. I haven't got the still up, if I'm being truthful. The only light that you would see at the back of that is a mast in the distance with 2 red lights, which you can't see on their camera. They walked up the next morning to where the fire was the night before, and they could, because they've lived there a long time, they know where it was, and they know where they needed to be to see the area where they believe this fire was. And there was nothing, no sign of anything, nothing out of the ordinary. So County Durham, it's a place called Stanley in County Durham. So if you're up that way, I know Al Durham and Andy and Chris and a few people will know exactly where we're talking about. So let's put this bit of footage up. So you've got like a little bit of an overview, and I've sort of broke it up. I don't know, it's 2 or 3 minutes. I'll stop midpoint if you want, and let's just add this and go. I'll talk over it. So I've put that black writing on. So you see the glow. Obviously, we're looking at a camera, and there it is. They couldn't see this looking at it with the naked eye. They could only see it on that camera. There's a light above the trees. I've altered this and just added a bit more light so that people can see what's happening. But there's also a light in the very top in one or two of the frames. I realise there'll be some people thinking, what's he showing us? What is he showing us? Because we've no proof of anything. We haven't, guys. We've found something unusual on somebody's camera and they've been kind enough to send it in. And myself and you guys in chat, we're just breaking it down and having a look at it. Tell us what you think. Is it somebody with infrared beams? If it is, they're not sweeping round anywhere. The couple, I also asked them, I says, did you check the cameras prior to this, you know, half an hour before to check nobody'd gone up with torches and they'd done all that? These lights just appeared. So just keep watching. I don't know how long it'll last. It's a great example as well of insects close to the stream, where people often say that they've captured something anomalous and that you haven't. You've just caught an insect speeding past the lens like that there. It's not an alien. It's a moth. Right, let's have a look. It's not that long, but I find little bits of footage like this quite fascinating because you can still see the dull glow, and I think I'll just throw a bit of light into it in a moment. You see that other UFO fly around there? That were a moth. Let's have a look. Just the lights to show the lights were still there. So that's it, when they couldn't see anything, just the dull glow. They become brighter again, but they don't leave. Everything just switches off. She said you wouldn't be able to walk up there without lights. I don't know what you guys think. So let's have a look. I think that's the daytime one, obviously, yeah. So you're just getting a little bit of daytime footage.
Yeah.
And they've said they've gone to the exact place where it is. We've not proved or disproved anything, guys, have we? We've just put a bit of footage up that's interesting. Ridgeback. Interesting point this here with ridgebacks. It's the only dog to have ever bit me, one of them. Very smart dog, to be honest, aren't they? I didn't feel that smart when he bit me.
Good girl.
Right, we'll remove that now. I think you can see their home back down there, I think. We'll remove that. So what do you think? Just perfectly normal. Somebody's just gone up, set up camp, have they? If they have, interesting that there were no lights leading up to it, no lights leading away. And although we can't spend all night looking at it, there's definitely lights in the top of the trees in a few of the frames. So I find little bits of footage like that interesting. And thank you, Alison and Brian, for taking time to send it. Let's have a look. Let's see if there's any questions. Oh, and Carl. We spent some time with Carl and Sarah at weekend, and Carl's got some really interesting footage that he's taken with his camera from his home, not from round here as it happens. But I haven't had time to load it up, Carl, but I will do. We'll definitely do that on Thursday or next Sunday because it's so interesting. He's got a camera with infrared facing up to the sky, and there's an object there. Carl, tell us how long it's there because I can't remember, but it's there a long time. This camera's not moving, remember, it's just filming. And it's just pulsing a beam out. I was really impressed with what I saw other night, but Carl's had to travel home and they sent me footage via looking at the phone, and there was just a glare on it, so I need it a little bit better. But let's have a look. Alex Thompson, you're in. Linda, Drew Hollings, Blue Shift, we've done. Susan Wiseman, Tony Dixon. Let's have a look. Pete, we've done Pete. Nikki Griffiths, Ben 22. Let's have a look. Scotch Mist. I think that's what we're doing with this subject, isn't it? We're chasing smoke because who's got that ultimate proof? Who's got it? We've all had a little taste of it, haven't we? But we've got no actual tangible proof. Right, let's have a look what this says. Any UFO seen in South Yorkshire? Well, it's a little bit out of my... That's obviously, Rich, that's where I'm from originally. And there were plenty of sightings in 60s, 70s and 80s. And how do I know that? I only know that because when I was writing my book, Night People, about my experiences, and when I lived at Old Dennerby and Mexborough area, I was looking to see if any of the experiences, and I couldn't pin it down to an actual definite date, just a year, if there were UFO activity in those years. So it is interesting. And you'll remember the 3 UFOs that were allegedly captured in Conisborough, maybe, Rich, although South Yorkshire's a big place, so you might not be talking about... I'm only talking about places I know. Let's have a look. Right, we'll see something from Al Durham in a minute. But listen, Paul, when was your last significant paranormal experience? Sorry if this has been asked before. Do you know, for myself, Rick, I mean, we're seeing things up on the cliff tops. So what would you call them? We're hearing strange things. We're hearing voices. And I don't mean we're hearing somebody shouting in distance and just thinking, oh, that could be paranormal. We're hearing voices around us, which is really strange, isn't it? Is that? But I think you're getting at the things that happened for me, 1993 to 1997, 98. They were the bad ones when these things were leaving scars, wounds, which turned into scars. But there have been things happen, but not as significant as in the 90s, if I'm being truthful. Oh, and I'm going to be speaking with Whitley Strieber in was it in October? I think in October, might be September. We've got a date, so I'm going to speak with Whitley. Who, if you don't know who he is, he's probably one of the most famous abductees in the world. They made the film about Whitley, Communion, which I think Christopher Walken played Whitley Strieber. So I'm quite looking forward to that. And be respectful if you're going to talk about Whitley, because he is a good friend and he's always been kind to me. So there you go. So let's have a go at this something else. Let's have a look. Al Durham, have sightings increased in the North Yorkshire? That's a good question, Alan. There's been things seen. I mean, one at team will come up with myself, Ian, and Pete on cliff tops. Jeremy, he actually travels down from close to Fylingdales because there's probably more happening in East Yorkshire. And he's a guy who likes to go out walking. He likes to go out in the night in remote places. And he's not reporting that much from up there. But it's interesting, nevertheless, that it's worth noting. And that, yeah, I tell you what I found interesting. I've got a book on this. So I couldn't lay my hands on it. But when there were some significant fires on North Yorkshire moors, somebody help me out here and tell me the year that it cleared everything. They found a lot of stones with cup and ring marks and carvings on them that people just didn't know existed. You know, ancient stones, flat stones with all sorts of carvings on them and depicting stars and suns and moons, which are fascinating. Obviously, heather grows over them pretty quick again, but I wonder if these things are going to be exposed again. I rang Chris Wright today and he was going to ring me back. I'll have to speak to him later because I want to see if me and Chris can get up there and have a look, because I think that would be interesting. So have sightings increased? I don't know, Al. It makes you think about things like the big cats that are allegedly in the area and even the cryptid type sightings. You know, if these things are living, breathing creatures, well, they're going to have to move to different areas, aren't they? So would there be a lift in sightings there? Perhaps. You know, my views on the cryptid type things, that it's of a supernatural type paranormal stroke nature. But yeah, let us know. You might already know, Al. Let's have a look down these questions. Welcome, Mel. Top dog, Ziggy. Oh, it's on about Mel's dog. I don't know about top dog. It smells a bit, Mel, when it's when it wants to. Right, I better stop. Let's have a look. Yeah, Reddit was the Chinese equivalent to Starlink. So obviously Simon's on about this line of lights that weren't as wide as the Starlink. It was just like a concentrated train of lights. Jack had got the binoculars on them, and the vapor trail was a fuel dump from the re-entry. Thanks for that, Simon. Let's have a look. Let's just go down here. And then we'll do another. There's been a few sightings up on cliff tops. I want to just cover them, but I'm just running down these questions before I get told off for not. Oh, Steve Stockton's in, so that's good to see Steve. I say it every week. Steve's been so kind to Truth Proof and always been gracious with his time for me. So missing persons and mysteries, or if I've got that wrong, let's have a look. Yeah, missing persons and mysteries with Steve Stockton. Get on that channel and have a look, because Carol Pointer's in. It's an absolutely brilliant channel, and thank you, Karen, and all my best, Steve, to you Nicole and Holden, and every time. Let's have a look. Zeno's got some of this probably going to melt my brain. I should read this before I put it up, really. Let's have a look. Paul, with the increasing anxiety over the 3-stroke Atlas, there's an increasing distance between Loeb and NASA's statement. A friction between the two camps is taking shape, but someone is doing a U-turn? I'm not sure. There's maybe something I'm missing there, Zeno. And we need Zeno on this channel because he'd be the man to talk to us about this. I know you would. Well, what's your views on what it is then, Zeno? That's what I'd ask you, and let us know in chat. If I'd have had time, I'd have sent you a link, and you could have told us. So let's have a look. I should read these really. But let's. I saw Greg. I saw the lights last week. Can't remember which night. Thought it was Starlink. All right. So we're talking about these lights close together. Yeah, 4 of them. And it looked like 4 to me, Greg, but Jack had the binoculars on them and there were more. South moving. So, yeah, I'm in Glasgow, south side. Thanks for that, Greg. And another drink of tea. Let's just do these. Let's have a look at these sightings. Let's have a look. So we'll start. There's probably been more, but just bear in mind, people, that this is only things that we've seen and experienced, and it's minimal. It's not sort of UFOs and things. So 11th of August, I walked along the cliff tops alone. So it's just basically what I've been telling you before. There's Jack and Pete up there. Ian had a procedure on his knee, so he didn't come up for a week or so. On the way back, Jack and Pete asked me if I'd called out and shouted to them. Because they said they heard a voice which sounded like mine. So let's think about it, people. It could have been me trying to trick them, but no, they said it sounded near them. I were way down cliffs, and they said this voice. That's what we're hearing. We're hearing voices. We're hearing little bits of laughter, strange things that aren't this. You can hear the train when it sets off in Bempton, and you know what it is. It's in the distance, and you can hear that. But this is voices around us. Really, really strange. We were up there last night. There was myself, Elaine, Ian, Sarah, Carl, and Chris. And a light. In fact, I wrote it down here. And we're at one point during the evening, let's just say 9:30, because I can't remember the time. With all there, complete darkness, no torches on. And Carl went, "Oh, what was that?" And he got the echoing voice of Elaine and Sarah. And I just looked and I just caught the glass bit of it, or just the fleeting bit of it. And a light just lit up against his feet. There's nothing there. It wasn't his phone in his pocket or a torch. There's literally nothing there. There's no street lights. There's nothing. We couldn't explain it. But those are the quirky things that are happening. So you go to these places and you think, Christ, these people are seeing what people would describe as UFOs, even if it's only lights. But it's evolved. It's certainly evolved for us up there anyway. And there's a lot more things of I don't know what you would call it. Is it a ghostly nature, seeing the dark shape, the dark outline of a person, but there's nothing there? It just disappears. It just goes into non-existence. Gemma's in chat, moderating for us with Lee, and I don't know if Alison's in. If you are, Alison, good to see you. See Wendy's in as well, and Leechy. But where am I going with this? Gemma's in chat. I'd not seen Gemma for probably 2 or 3 years, and she came down and stayed with us for 2 or 3 days with her partner, who's got no interest whatsoever in this subject. I know I've told you this one before, but this is the kind of thing. Comes up onto cliff tops, completely dark, black night, just doing it to humour Gemma, I reckon, and me. You know what I mean? He's a nice guy as well. I don't mean it in any bad way, but that's, if you're not interested, you're not interested. So, but he didn't complain at all. He just came up. So we get in car to drive home. As we, Dad, I said his name. He might not want his name using. So he said his name. Gemma said his name. Was to call him Pete. Pete, tell me, Dad, what you saw. So we're a bit of reluctance. He says, I looked onto the cliff tops. He said, I turned around. He said, I saw somebody, just a black shape of a person walking. Grabbed the torch. There's nobody there. These are the quirky things that we're seeing, and I'm fascinated by it. So we've gone, or I've not done full circle, but I've gone from standing up there like I used to do years ago on my own, because there weren't a team of people coming up, and I'm grateful that people do come up. And I'm looking, I've got cameras with me, and I'm looking for some lights in the sky, and there's this strangeness that's occurring all around us, which I don't really think I was switched on to back then. I really don't. Let's have a look. Have we done, Greg? I think we have. Yeah, we have done that. Sorry. Let's just go down here a little bit. So let's just have a look at this. Right. So you remember me talking about Mark, who comes up onto the cliff tops, and you can see the contours of the land in the distance, and obviously you've got the sky, and it's a bit lit up like there. Mark shone his torch and lit the little moon up. And what's happened again? I don't know what. Let's have a look what night it happened. That was Wednesday, 27th at 8th. Mark shone his torch into the sky and lit up an object, not shaped like a moon, just a weird shaped thing. It appeared and disappeared instantly. Mark and Ian saw it. And when it's a joint sighting and they're not jumping on the bandwagon just to think, oh, I want to pretend I've seen this, because they both just erupted into it like me and Mark did when the little moon lit up. I don't know. These things absolutely baffle me. So, right, we've done the Carl and Sarah one, the light. So then we've got a guy called John, who came up onto the cliff tops last night, travelled a good distance, but he was up the night before. So 29th of this month, which is only a few days ago, John decided to go up onto the cliff tops. So that's Friday. We weren't there. So he gets up there, got his little dog with him, and he admits he's got just a weak, sort of pretty useless torch. It's not worn out, but it doesn't light a large area up. Walks down to the cliff tops, takes a right and heads towards Flamborough. He expected to see us probably, although he's not bothered. He walk about in dark, this fella. So there's people at the stand. I think he said there were 3 people at the stand, and it turned out to be Steve Ashbridge. I know it did now. I've not spoken to Steve, but I know from what he told me it'd be Steve. And he's sort of has a natter to these people, and then disappears into the night down towards the next stand and down towards these posts where the posts would be, the military guys, where they claim to have seen this strange creature. And there's people down there observing as well. So one of them could have been Steve and his friends, but there's definitely 2 different lots of people looking at the night sky. They shouted out, "Have you seen anything?" So he knew that they were looking for the same thing as him. He said he hadn't. Carried on towards Flamborough. You run out of fence, and if you've not got a good torch, you don't want to be walking up along those cliff tops in the dark, because some of those bits of path are really, really close to the edge, and you're not coming back if you end up down there. So he turned round, did his route back, and sort of did a carbon copy of what he'd just done, past that stand, not seeing anything, just a few words exchanged, carried on, went to other stand, the same thing. So I've wrote this down because I want to get it somewhat like for him. Let's just have a quick look. Right, he reached the second stand. They asked him if he'd seen anything, so he assumed that they were doing the same thing. After a while, he decided to, let's just get this right. I've probably in front of me, some of people. Right, so he left that stand, the one that we kind of frequent a lot, and headed towards the path that would take, if you took a left, you'd go back up to the car park. But instead, he went straight on. And there's 2 paths. There's a straight one, and there's one that goes off at about 10 o'clock. Midpoint is just about reaching that path. In the darkness, not got a torch on. There's a little dog with him, and he's never seen anything. He's been up about 5 or 6 times because he's interested, but he's never seen anything. And he said a dirty looking orange light, and that's how he described it. And he described it as an Edison type light bulb, just lit up about 15 meters in front of him on the path, about 2 to 3 foot off the ground. That's literally just lit up like a grapefruit size. And it's not a fleeting glimpse where you look and it's gone. He said he looked at it for 3 to 4 seconds. He texted me next day, and then I spoke to him last night about it as well, because he came back. He's traveling a good distance as well. That's how much it's kind of interested in him. So he's looking at it. 3 to 4 seconds, which doesn't sound like long, but in the grand scheme of things, it like those lights that Mark lit up on the horizon, that was just a second and it were gone. But I can see it as vivid as anything. Gets his torch, puts the torch on it, because 15 to 20 meters, 15 meters, the torch beam, even a weak torch, is going to reach that and beyond. And he says it's a big spread of a beam, but not a very powerful torch. Puts the torch on it. There's nothing there. Nothing. Obviously, it's gone. The torch has either switched it off, or, I don't know, something's happened. Immediately after putting the torch on it, he spun the torch round, and about 200 yards away, there's a man walking briskly up the path. Now, were he responsible for it? In the words of John, who spoke to us last night, he says he'd about to have teleported. He says it will literally put the torch on, it's gone, and then I just sort of thought, wait, what's that? What's happening? And spun the torch round, and this guy's about 200 yards away. It weren't him. He's kicking himself for not pursuing him up the path, because he thinks, did he see something? Did something spook him? Because he said he were walking quite briskly. But so that, well, last night. So that was Friday night. And as I say, he came up again last night. No luck, as far as I know, he didn't, and saw nothing last night. So, what are people seeing? What is it? What would you guys think that is? Oh, I need to stress, because he stressed it to me. He doesn't think it were a UFO. You know, let's be true to witness, and that's what he said to me. He said he felt it were more of a earth energy, or some kind of spirit energy, ghostly form, rather than what we'd term as some kind of UFO, like we're looking at the ILFs over the sea. And let's face it, he's better placed to know how he felt about it than me. So I'm not going to impress what I think it is, So I think that were worth noting. He didn't class it as a UFO, so that's what he told me. So what do you think to that? So I'm going to go down here a little bit. I hope we've got a few questions. Let's have a look. Moondog, Carol Pointer, Blue Shift, Sparks. Right, Paul. I think, did they inspect the woodland during the day? So probably that were put up before we showed it. They did, Mark, yeah. And obviously there's nothing there. And if you've lived, your own area, wherever you live, and where you've got to be. If you've seen something during the night, you know what area you've got to be in. What do you guys think it was? Because I can only think that the camera were picking some kind of infrared up. But if it were people with an infrared torch, you'd see some torch beam waving about, but there was none of that. So I found it fascinating. And the glow, Al Durham says the glow is intriguing. It really is, Al. And obviously we've rushed through it here, and there were a lot more footage. But let's face it, I think I'd have probably bored you if you'd have just sat for 20 minutes looking at this footage. So we've just condensed it. But what you saw were pretty much there all the time. And they backtracked, as I said, and they looked through the footage, and there's nothing there prior to it. No torches leading up to it. No torches coming over the top. And there's nothing behind that as well, so I'm told. So do you want another look at it? We'll have another quick look at it now that you said that. No, we won't. Let me stop that, you silly idiot. I got wrong one on. That's right. Let's have a go again. No, that's that one. So where's it gone? I can't show you it, guys, because it's disappeared, which is a shame. So we won't be looking at it. So, but there's another sighting from County Durham, which I will do if I haven't got any questions, because I want to see whether we can. Let's have a look. Lisa, Paul, there's a flash in the left on the forest. There is, Lisa, yeah. And in Alison's own words, because obviously they've looked at it, she said there's almost like a little puff of light, and like her exact words were a poof, and that just sort of appears, and then these lights appear. But when I sort of added more light to it, you can see in the top of the trees, and that might be what you're talking about, Lisa. You can see a light in the top of the trees. So yeah, excellent. Certainly looks intriguing. Yeah, I think it does. I mean, I know people are talking about this. The Atlas, Zeno's brought it up, and that sort of captured the world of the unexplained, as in people who are interested. But I like these things that are happening closer to home. You know, and I know we know closer to the truth of what it was. And let's face it, who would have gone up there in the night to have a look? I think probably we would have done. I'll be honest with you. I think we would have done. When I used to live at Conisborough in South Yorkshire, where we lived, it was a place called Burcroft Hill, and you looked onto what's called the crags. And during the night, one night, we saw torches, and well, we thought they were torches and lights, and that's always stuck in my mind. What could it have been? Once again, it could have just been somebody poaching. I don't think that was what Alison and Brian have filmed, because it's static. And even when the glow dies down, it's still there. Now that's telling in itself, isn't it? Because if they're torches, infrared torches, then why have they died down, and why do they flare up again? So yeah, I think when you said, Mike, it certainly looks intriguing. It really does. And Tony Worrell's spot on. Too far to tell. Could have been someone with a powerful torch. There's 3 lights, Tony, so it could have been 3 people. But do you not think that you'd have seen torch beams sweeping about? They're pretty much static. When they get bright, that's all they're doing. They're just getting brighter. But you're right, Tony. We'll never know. Let's have a look. What we got here? Let's leap up there. If you're new to Proof channel, please fill in the alien disclosure update by Dr. Martin Abbas. Yeah, please do that, because we have the tool that we want to collect information. We haven't really advertised that for a few weeks, so Martin will have to come on and we'll do a little bit about that. And Dragonborn's in, I think, isn't she? Jan and Andrew, Lee Hopkins. We've done Ben 22, Mike Disabled Welshman. Come on, give me some questions. Let's have a look. I like it when Lee does this. Thank you, Lee. The books, Truth Proof books, they're on Amazon as Kindles downloads, or you can get them off the truthproof.uk website. Likewise, you can watch Wolfland, which is behind me, on Amazon Prime, or order it off website. It'll be posted tomorrow if you order it. Okay, let's just sometimes I hardly ever think about talking about the books, and let's have a look. We've talked about Steve Stockton, Missing Persons and Mysteries, and absolutely brilliant guy. And I'd advertise what he does all day long. Right, so Andy Ross, let's have a look. Right, so Andrew, Ghost Whisperer, just 3 miles from me, in fact, and it looks like some of the track has had a lot of track I walk. Oh, looks like some of the track that you walk a lot. Interesting. Oh, that'd be good, Andy. I bet you don't do your ghost walks up there, mate. But I don't know what harvest's like for you, because Andy's been really busy at the moment with farm, working farm. But if it's died down, it might be somewhere that you want to walk and have a look, Andy. That would be interesting. I don't know whether Alison and Bri would want to be in touch with you, but it might be interesting for you to have a natter to them. And this is Andy Ross, who does the ghost walks, and they're absolutely excellent. So that's all we're doing. Let's have a look. Tony Dixon. Let's have a look. Brother Little, enjoyed having you on my show. Thank you. Let's have a look. Andy H, do you think the phenomena remembers who you and the team are when it interacts with you on the? It's a good question, and one that I think it chooses to interact with certain people, and you kind of know that things are going to happen, and that's not a knowing that Paul Sinclair's got. I think all of you guys, when the ingredients are right and something's going to happen. I mean, some of you might be into, I don't know, looking for ghosts and spirit, and you might go to certain locations with a certain group of people, and you think, something's going to happen tonight. And I don't mean it always does, but invariably it does. And then you've got other people, and there just seems to be a downer on the mood, and nothing happens. But I tell you, this place seems to favour new people. I just don't know why, but it seems to favour new people. And you get somebody new up there who's quite open-minded. I don't know whether it's the expectancy the actual thought, if you're open-minded enough that you know something could happen due to your own experiences, then you don't need the proof of this, even though, as the title of Truth Proof 1 says, it's the truth that leaves no proof. And that's exactly what it is, because it's all the truth to us, isn't it? Let's face it. And I don't know. I think it favors certain people. And I don't necessarily mean it favours me, because there's loads of people up there that have experiences and I don't. But I'm up there just to try and document what I can. And there's more and more people coming up. Let's just have a look. Let's see where we're going with this. Mike, disabled Welshman. Anything strange happening in your house at the moment, Paul? No, and I spoke to Bob Brown, who's in the top flat. And he said nothing had happened. And that's just how it goes. Do you know the lady over the road? She come out with the strangest thing, and I'm going back a couple of years now, and she'd been ill and stayed in bed, and her bedroom window looks directly onto our hallway. There's 2 windows in hallway, and one of them now has a wall separating the 2 windows. It's a huge Victorian house, this, and that's become the hallway for flat 2. So that's where it becomes peculiar, this story. She said, I'm laid in bed in the daytime. I've got the net curtains up, and all I'm doing is just laid there feeling sorry for myself, looking across directly at your windows. And I can see 2 people, but just shapes. We're talking about dark outlines. It's not night. She said, and they're doing the strangest things. She says they're walking along the landing, and they're walking as though they're going downstairs. But there's a landing there. There's 1, 2, 3. There's 5 flights of stairs to the top of this property. But where she's talking about, it's just a straight landing, and you'd open the door to flat 2, but there's no door open. She said they're just walking straight through. She didn't even know there were a wall there. You know, I don't think she's ever been upstairs in property. She says, and I can see them just slowly going down, 2 people, and I see them at the next window then as their heads are passing it. She says, and then they start again. And then they start again. They don't go backwards. She says, I watched them for hours. And she made a point of ringing us up and telling us the strangest thing. I mean, we've never seen or experienced anything like that in there. But that's what she told us. The lady next door to her, and her husband used to be a really good friend of mine. He's passed away now. And he's in the night, people. I got his story. The night that I received the holes in my back, he came to our house. He came in the morning, and he's knocking at the door asking if everything's okay. And one of the girls answered the door, and I got to speak to him later, and he had a terrible lung condition where he'd worked in a foundry, and I don't know whether it's something to do with dust and filings and what have you, but he couldn't sleep laying down, so he used to sit in a nice leather chair on a night and unbelievably smoke and just nod off when he could. So he got bad lungs smoking. But anyway, that's beside the point. And he'd sit just staring into space, watching the world pass by. And he said that there was huge electrical type flashes lighting up the rooms, like a blue-white light. And he thought that our house were going to set on fire. He said he considered coming over. And on another occasion, the very top room of the house, and I say he didn't sleep, he stayed downstairs. His wife were upstairs, and that'll make sense in a moment. He says, I'm watching. This is when our girls were young. He says, and I can see some red balls of light. I think he said there were 3. I might be wrong. Gemma might remember. And they're like moving around on ceiling, just above ceiling. He says, and I instantly thought, oh, the girls have got some kind of light that's projecting these lights. And they're moving around the room. He said, and the next thing that happens is they just drop. And they're in the next room below. They're in the floor below. He says, and I went upstairs and spoke to my wife and got her up, and we watched them. He says, and they dropped into bottom room. You know, there's net curtains up. There's still net curtains up. And these lights, he said, and he described it as like will-o'-the-wisp. He said, and he'd watched them in the top room. They dropped through into the middle room, did whatever they were doing, and then dropped through into the bottom room. So that's the 1990s. We're looking at 96 to 98 there. I've probably dated that in night, people. So yeah, to answer this, Mike, there's not a lot happening at the moment. And maybe we shouldn't have asked question because you be careful. I won't say what you wish for, but you know how these things are. Let's have a look at this. Let's see what we're doing here. Paul, I have footage of UFOs for scrutiny. And in my community post is some photos, including possible alien grey from C5 orb and a black triangle craft. Well, let's have a look at them. I don't see why not. Wayne, just get in touch sometime during the week if you want, mates. Providing whoever sent them, you are not going to be upset by us showing them, and not be upset if we don't like what we're looking at, as in it's not UFO related. Look at Brian and Alison's footage today. A few comments saying, I think it's just people. And I know Brian and Alison won't be upset, but some people do. But we'd love to look at it anyway. Let's have a look. Right, let's have a look. Paul, can you get Whitley onto the live stream? I've had him onto the live stream, Jane, a few years ago. And I'd love to. He just messaged me, I don't know, last week about something, and I'd had a little natter, and I'm going to go on. He's given me a few dates, and I think I've said one Tuesday I'm going to go on, and we'll have a natter onto Dreamland. And I always enjoy speaking with Whitley Strieber. And why do I have time for Whitley Strieber? I've had time for loads of people, because in 2006, I did all of this on my own, and I didn't have the YouTube channel. Oh, I did actually, but I didn't do anything with it. And I was down there with a little Sony Handycam, and I'm tutted all over the place on my own, stood in dark places. And then I'd come home if I'd managed to film these lights, put them onto the internet, and there were a few. They were the National UFO Reporting Centre, if anybody can remember that, and they were UFO Casebook. I can't remember the guys' names, but I'd send them the footage and they'd put it up and people would be interested. And Whitley Strieber got in touch. He said, come and speak on Dreamland. I'd love you to talk about this footage. And I said, I'm not going to do that. I said, I don't feel confident enough to do that. And that was 2006. When I wrote the first book, all them years later, 15, I thought, yeah, it might be a good time now to try and talk to this man and see whether he would, because it can showcase what I'm doing, if that makes sense. Instantly, you know what I mean? That Whitley Strieber's not too big a person within this subject to have time for people who were absolutely nothing in this subject, and that's why I have loads and loads of respect for the man. So let's do this. Nigel Logan, let's have a look. Good to see you, Nigel. Do you think about the things coming out about Lockheed Martin? I only know a little bit here, and are we talking about the potential for them to producing some of this phenomena that the Pentagon have been releasing? I think I talked about this and said it's almost like a double bluff, and they're going to show us this, and we're going to get the big build up that we're going to get told about the visitors and the alien, sort of potential alien contact. But then the goalposts or the football is going to get kicked further down the field. And now what we're talking about, this is man-made tech. I'm not saying it's all been planned, Nigel. I don't know, but it's interesting nevertheless. And while Nigel's here, well, he's there, isn't he? He's not exactly here. This guy had one of the most incredible triangle sightings that I think anybody's ever gonna have. What year was it, Nigel? Just put year. Oh, I see Alison's in. Good to see you, Alison. I'm just visiting. All right. Yeah, we're all good, Alison, and thank you. I can't remember year. I think it might have been 2019. But Nigel was sat on the cliff tops with a friend at, come on, not Ulrome. I'll get it. But anyway, it'll come to me, little Ed, in a minute. But he sat on the cliff tops with a friend after they'd been doing some work on a caravan site, just having a little break, and these little dirt cliffs that are only about 30 to 40 feet, sand and then the sea. The tide's in, so you've only got a narrow strip of sand, and a triangle is flying below the cliffs. And they're just watching it. They can see on top of it. Looks like Teflon. And probably 38 by 40, 38 to 40 foot. And why do I say that? Because he estimated it to be about the size of a big caravan. But a perfect triangle going up the cliffs. Shouted to a man and I think a lady walking up the cliffs. Correct me if I'm wrong, Nigel. And there's a guy sort of with his dog, was trying to point it out to him because it's below, and it just vanished. Didn't fly anywhere, just disappeared. What are we dealing with? If that's military tech, it's incredible, isn't it? Absolutely mind-blowing tech if they've got something that can just switch off. And why would it be flying up a public beach lower than the cliff tops? Fascinating. And really appreciate Nigel sharing that one with us. Let's have a look. Karen's, there we go. Have you or any of the team experienced the unnerving feeling of being watched, though something is behind you? Thank you. Thank you, Karen. And I think we've all experienced it. I had it a few years ago whilst with Steve Ashbridge, probably going back to 2016. And on this particular night, because me and Steve used to spend a lot of time on Wolds, and then we sort of migrated a little bit to Bempton because fishermen were talking about things that they'd seen. So it'd be earlier than 20, because we started coming up in 2009, and walked all the way to the north side of Danes Dyke. And I suddenly started on the way back, midnight, going close to midnight, started to feel, there's no other word for it, frightened. I felt scared. I felt like something was watching me. Felt like there were eyes all over me, which is ridiculous because you've got the North Sea to the right or the left, depending which direction you're going, and fields. You've not got trees, you've not got woodland. Steve didn't feel it. And I don't go up there and feel it. A lot of, I spent years up there on my own. Yet I couldn't shake it off. It were horrible. All I wanted to go, I said, we've got to go. I says, I don't like this. And it was just an awful feeling. So maybe that's what you're talking about. And I brought up Mark lots of times, who comes up there with us. He's had it. And there's a guy that's camped in Scotland. There's a guy that maybe next weekend, just on a whim, will go take his camping gear and just disappear somewhere, sleep at side of a river in some remote place on his own. And no qualms about doing it, but it hit him up there. He got it. And to hear him talk about it, I've never experienced something like it in my life. So I think we've all had that. I bet there's loads in chat, and I'm assuming, Karen, excuse me, I'm assuming that you have experienced that as well. And it's not nice, is it? And where it comes from, what in chat, who thinks that they know what impresses that upon us? Is it something invisible that's watching us, that's giving out some kind of, I don't know, infrasound, or altering the frequency and just, I don't know, kicking in the chemicals within our body, and we don't even know why we're feeling frightened, because there's something stimulating all these chemicals that are produced within the zone of fear. I don't know, but plenty of people have experienced it, and I don't just mean in the locations we go. But and emotion, lots of emotions, lots and lots of different emotions. Actually, there's been people up there with us that have been reduced to tears, and that's the way that this has made them feel. Why, I don't know. Are you picking up on someone else's sorrow? I really don't know. And I think there's a time and there's a place for everyone within the genre of unexplained phenomena to interact with what's happening up there, and to interact with what's happening in your particular locations, not just you, Karen, but everybody, so let's not just limit these things. That's what I'm saying to the UFO. Let's throw that net out. Thanks for questions, guys, because it really makes things easier for me. Let's have a look. Paul, I sent you my pics from Loch Ness. Yeah, you did. I know exactly who I'm talking about. I can see the pictures now. You said you'd follow up, and I don't know if I missed something, but not heard anything. Can't seem to get anyone interested in them. Yeah, and lost tapes. But thanks for bringing it up. I've still got the pictures. What do we do? It's like anything else. Everything's a little bit vague, isn't it? And Loch Ness is not really my subject. Although I suppose I'm just saying, let's have a look at everything. So I've contradicted myself. Let's have a look at them. And do you want to talk? Do you want to tell us? Do you want to walk us through it? What you saw then? Come on here one Sunday, even if it's only for 10 minutes. We can do that. I don't mind. And so there, we could do. So there, we can do that. Let's have a look. There's Pete. I see John Paul Body, Fire Spirit, Mag Sue, Tony Worrell. Let's have a look. Have any of the people fighting the fight? No, I've not heard of anything, Tony. I'd love to know what that ship's in Bridlington in the bay for, the warship, and the Chinooks that have been circling around it. I heard them earlier. I should have gone out with the P900 yesterday when I heard the helicopters, but as I say, I'd just been so wrapped up in other things. Let's have a look. Lee Prendergast. Let's have a look. The only thought is the camera is able to draw in more light, i.e. aperture, when eyeball that doesn't help what it is. No, but you're right, Lee. And, and my thoughts were, jumping back to Alison and Brian's footage, my initial thoughts were that we're looking at something that's an infrared light because we just can't see it with naked eye. I mean, it's quite bright at times, that, isn't it? And they're looking through their window as well as on the camera, on the screen. And they can't see it, which is interesting. And they thought it was a fire. Let's have a look. Paracetamol. I don't know what we're doing there, Jane. Let's have a look. Darren Lewis. Paul, do you think you are bringing down the light by putting boots on the ground? Are you creating experience via consciousness, creating reality? I've said it, answer, Darren. And, and I'm not first person to say it. I realise that. But when I say, are we creating the phenomena, that does not mean that the phenomena does not exist. But do you think that by thinking about it, we're somehow germinating something that's already there? Like almost the seeds of the unknown are already there. And when we put thought into it, and the best example I can give, and I always throw it out, is the Ouija board, which we don't use. But people, when employ a bit of brain matter into the Ouija board and the intent, and they kind of know what's going to come back to them, they claim to have results. Not very favourable in most instances. But what's it stimulated by? Because you could look at that board all day and nothing's going to happen. It's not, is it? You know what I mean? You can't stare it into life. But a group of people with some concentrated thought. So obviously human consciousness is the way to connect with this unknown other. In meditation, prayer, because people connect with things through prayer, chanting, drumming, all sorts of things that probably I'd have never ever considered years ago. But I think they all have a massive part to play. So yeah, I think, Darren, we probably are. And I know some people aren't going to agree, but what can we do? We just have to agree to disagree. Steve Collin knows about this. I thought you would. Paul, runic carvings discovered in 2004. And Steve's talking about the carvings that were discovered when there were the fires on the North Yorkshire moors, 2004. I've got the book, Steve, and Bob got me the book, Bob Brown. So lucky with Bob, because Bob works in a charity shop, and odd times quirky books like that come in. And Bob purchased that book, and so we've actually got the locations of where they are, Steve. So that might be interesting if I throw some of them locations at you, and if there have been fires up there in that particular area, we could go and see if we could get some pictures of them. I'd love to do that. Thanks for that, Steve. Let's have a look. Simon Riley, Drew Hollings, John Paul Body. Let's have a look at that. It's not in caps. Paul, did you mention if there's going to be a Wolflands 2 or not? There will be. We've done too much filming for there not to be. And just likewise, I'm doing stuff with Chris Turner. And life's just got in the way this last couple of years, but we've done lots of filmed some incredible people, and yeah, we will. Fingers crossed, we will be. I don't think it's going to end up being called Wolflands 2, but there's people in chat here who've been involved in it and give us their time. I see Jill Olsen in, and so Carl must be in. Good to see you. Saxo UK. Let's have a look. So, have you got guys taken any? Oh, right, yeah. Have you guys taken any audio equipment up there, spirit box, etc.? Not taking a spirit box, to be honest with you, but Bob had one. I'm not sure. I don't know what to think of. What do you guys think about spirit boxes? Do you think they're a useful tool, or do you think it's just some random piece of electrical equipment just kicking things out? Because let's face it. we can all connect with something. So if it threw a name out, I don't know, it said David, I might be thinking, I know a Dave. And some people want it that bad that they'd latch onto that. I don't know. I think Bob had one of these on his phone, and I couldn't place a lot of faith in it. There might be some equipment out there that is the real deal, but I really don't know. When you said audio equipment, excuse me, I've got audio recorders in Danesdyke. They're supposed to record for 500 hours. I think the memory card fills up before 500, but they're great. So far, we've not managed it. And there's somebody in chat. I know I said I did some to Al Durham, so I'm going to have to. Al will give me a kick up backside for not doing it. But we'll have to get that done, because one of these times in early hours at morning, because obviously they only record the voice activated. They're only going to record if they've got sound. So if it rains for 3 hours, it's going to record that. So you've got to go through all that footage. You can see it waveform if you've got anything, but or anything significant. But that could just be a bee buzzing near it. So they're in there. But as regards spirit boxes, I don't know. What do people think of spirit boxes? I haven't got an opinion one way or other, to be honest. I've never used them. Let's have a look. Bob Brown, is he in? Bob, if you are, hello, Bob. Let's have a look. Maverick, right? Let's have a look. Staxton Wold, excuse me, Fylingdales, Menwith Hill bases would very much like to be informed of things that are experienced, would they? They track pencil beam, L-band radar, track low-level radar. Do you inform them? Do you know, Maverick, I'm all for it. If you think that they want to be informed, I informed them when a lady and her husband saw that strange creature run across the road, literally half a mile from RAF Staxton Wold. And I didn't sensationalize it. I just put it out what they'd seen. And they said they'd pass it on to relevant people. I can't remember year, but my son-in-law and my daughter Sarah, and bear in mind Luke is not bothered about unexplained phenomena, but they live in Scarborough. They were travelling back through Osgerby, and you can see Staxton Wold on the top. And as they're travelling back, Luke sees this strange object very low in the sky, moving. I don't mean from Staxton Wold, but it's in between them and Staxton Wold, and he filmed it. And I contacted RAF Staxton Wold. We can get here because he filmed it very close to when Queen Mother died. What a quirky thing to say. How do I know that? Because Luke didn't know. Luke said, oh, you do this with picture. Well, I sent it to Nick Pope and let Nick have a look at it, and it ended up in paper. But anyway, that's beside the point. So that's the year it was. But I sent it to Staxton Wold. And if I'd have realised this was going to come up, I'd have found the letter. And I got a letter from Staxton Wold. It was 2010. I think that's when it was. It was 2010. I got a letter from Staxton Wold from whatever title he were, the guy in charge, to say that they would pass it on to RAF Leeming because that's where all their UFO reports came. But nobody asked me any detailed questions about, who saw it, or what speed do I estimate it were going, what happened after this bit of footage. So I take your point that they're probably interested, but I don't know whether they interact that much with Joe Public. But what I found interesting about the Staxton Wold sighting, Maverick, is that it had already been announced via the internet, via the newspapers, that all UFO reports now were being... Nobody's taking any notice of them. The UFO desk had closed. So that were interesting. And I think that were 2009. So I need to get it right. It were either 2009 and 2010 that we filmed that, and they were actively sending all UFO reports to Leeming, or it were 2010 and we filmed it in 2011. Either way, that were filmed afterwards. And that we've got the letter that says that the reports are sent to Leeming when they'd already put a statement out saying they weren't taking any more UFO reports. So that's interesting in itself, isn't it? I just rambled a bit there, didn't I? There you go. I seem to do that all the time, So my wife tells me. Let's have a look. Anyone else aware of any areas of high strangeness around the UK? Good point, Yorkshire. And we want to be hearing about them because yeah, I won't be visiting them. I've got enough to do with what I'm doing and what people come up with me. But there may be places that you guys are unaware of close to you. So yeah, just put it out there. I mean, we've got those, which ain't too far up from us, the sightings in Durham. So, right, let's have a look. Paul Barrett. Let's have a look. Has Paul, has the Bobster ever refused to enter a situation with you through fright? Do you know what, Paul? I think they're pretty fearless, don't you? I mean, he's a tiny little dog, isn't he? And we know his capabilities. And if another dog sort of went for him, he'd be in trouble. But as regards his actual attitude, I mean, when I go to places and I take him early in the morning, it's as though I'm just taking him anywhere. He doesn't seem to know. There was one place that Dave Barker, who often comes in chat, he told me that one of his relatives had found some deer in a tree. I think there were 2 deer carcasses in a tree, or in trees, in the hedgerows, but in a pretty tucked away, isolated place. Because I went one day and I couldn't find them, but I were barking up the wrong tree, so to speak. I'd gone in the wrong area. But when I went into this little area where I eventually found him, because he redirected me, the dog didn't want to go, and I did a short on it. I don't know what it's called, Paul, but it's on the Truth Proof YouTube channel, and I'm actually commenting and saying, look at him, he won't come, and I'm shouting him, and he's not having it. Put his lead on and kind of make him come, because he didn't want to come into area. I don't know why. Excuse me. Odd nights, he decides he's going to look at wall, and unless he's just turned away because he can't stand looking at me. Maybe. Could it be that? But he starts, he's going to look at wall, and he gives it that little curious look as he's looking at wall, and there's nothing there. So that's interesting. But situations through fright, no, and not really. Just the time that he didn't want to go in that little bit of wood. And let's have a look. Any reports from the old lighthouse keepers from the days they were manned? Yes, I've got somewhere, and I don't think it's in here. I've got a little folder, the A4 envelope, manila envelope with reports in from the old lighthouse keeper. I went and met him several times when he was keen to say, before it were automated, I were a proper lighthouse keeper. Not that the other guys aren't, but it must have been a different job in them days. So one of the reports he told me about was driving to the lighthouse to go to work. And there's a flying saucer. That's his exact words, above the lighthouse. And not a small thing, a flying saucer above the lighthouse. Daytime sighting. Another report he gave me, which he'd written up these reports for me, is in the lighthouse, and anybody who's familiar with Flamborough Lighthouse will know that there's a like a white bungalow with some masts up further down on the edge of the cliff. There's probably 400 yards between maybe less, 400 yards between the lighthouse and the bungalow. Google Earth this location if you were sufficiently interested. So there's someone else in the lighthouse with him on this night, and whoever it was on the gantry. It wasn't this lighthouse keeper's. He wasn't out at that moment, and he shouted him, "Come and look at this!" And looking down the cliffs towards Bempton, they can see 2 lights. There's a gap between them, but obviously they're looking into the distance, and these lights are just slowly travelling up. They're either just out at sea or they're just travelling along the cliffs. And it's a dark night. And I don't know what year we were talking about. I'm sure he was off back to 1970s. And this thing slowly travelled up, and you've got the beam of the Flamborough Lighthouse. Now it's just a flickering LED. But back in the day, it used to sweep round. Somebody will know how many cycles it did in a minute or whatever. I don't know, but it just sweep round. So it's getting closer, and they realise it's actually just off the cliffs. It's on land. But in the air, but on land. The beam's sweeping round, and he said the beam hit it once and lit it up, and then obviously it's gone into darkness, and it's in between the lighthouse and the bungalow. The beam comes round again and hits it up, and they see all of it. The beam comes round again, and they see the back end of it. And he claims it looked like a submarine, not with the top on it, just torpedo-shaped object, and in the middle a light either side of it, but so low, it was lower than the lighthouse, and it was between the lighthouse and the cottage or bungalow at the bottom. And I think he said the beam hit it 3 times, and it were a dark graphite-coloured object with 2 lights either side of it that were just slowly travelling, and it just disappeared into distance. Now, that's as quirky as you can imagine. Can you imagine if you were up on them cliff tops? You know, these strange scenarios. There's myself, Pete, Ian, Bob, whoever's up there, and that thing went over the top. People talk about the ultimate proof. Remember, back in the day, there were no mobile phones. I'm not picking my nose, by the way, it's itching. There were no mobile phones, and can you imagine seeing something like that? A submarine, as he described it. That's what it looked like. So yeah, then he'd got a few more sightings. I'd need this paperwork out to tell you about them, and he also had some interesting accounts from Orford Ness, which is fascinating because everybody knows that Orford Ness is close to Rendlesham Forest, and where the Rendlesham Forest incident obviously took place. And I've spoke about that odd times before as well, because the Brenda Butler, a lovely lady who I think is pretty instrumental in pushing a lot of the Rendlesham Forest incident out, said a few things that I think people didn't believe over the years. And she said that there's some kind of periscopes coming up around the island where the lighthouse is at Orford Ness, and implying that somebody's watching. And that this guy said that he went and did some relief work at the lighthouse, covering for somebody that either ill or just was on holiday. I don't know. And a boat took them across to it. Military personnel, they got on the lighthouse, and they weren't supposed to leave it until their shift were over. But on this particular day, they went down and had a walk around. And he said that this tube, when he looked down it, he says, and within, I won't say minutes, but a short time later, they've been reprimanded by military and everything. So there's obviously things there that are watching. So Brenda were right, basically. So there you go. Quirky little reports. Let's just have a look here. Let's have a look. I've got loads of stories to tell you guys, but we're not going to get to it, are we? I should read Linny's question before I put it up, really, shouldn't I? Yeah, Paul, we see the lights near Sarah and Carl 3 times. Yep, I spoke about it earlier, mate. 1 foot. Yeah, somebody walked on the decking, but it weren't us. So this is last night. And Elaine saw the little figure moving between the deck. I'll tell you what we're going to do, Ian, because I did say Elaine had seen something earlier. But what we'll have to do then, probably next Sunday, is sort of gather these little bits together. I'd already brought down a few of them, but and come on and we'll just talk about them. There might be something else by then, and talk about John's sighting. You know, the guy who saw the orange orb, and he said it looked quite intense as well, but a dirty orange colour, which is interesting, isn't it? Right, but he was of the opinion that were more of a spirit type light. And who's to say he's not right? Well, here comes one of them other questions that's going to fry my brain. From the esoteric texts of old, the explanation for the ethereal involves each thing we see as being ourselves from a subconscious realm. Each entity represents a part of our psyche. And it's us. Mad. I can kind of get that, Zeno. And I wonder if, when we've done the experiment on the cliff tops, this transfiguration, which I found fascinating, by the way, where we put the red light on and people stare at it. We know there can be misinterpretation. Where I find the transfiguration experiment interesting is when everybody, not just one and not just 3, everybody, if there's 5 of us, are seeing the same thing. And if somebody says, when you've got your eyes closed and you're focusing on this person's face, their eyes went white, and everybody says they were just white, and you never even opened your eyes, then you know something's happening. I know that's not quite on point for your question there, Zeno, but I found that fascinating, and I knew what was going to happen. Without sounding like I'm a know-all, but I knew what was going to happen when they did it to me on those cliff tops, because it's happened before. And I knew they were going to see something, and they did. So it's fascinating, weird spooky kind of experiment. Are we okay, guys? Do you want let's have a look what we got in chat. Oh Christ, there's over 300 people. Thanks for support. Let's have a look. Lost tapes. I'm not reading these. So Paul, I sent you. Oh, we've done that one, haven't we? Loch Ness. It's ended up down there again. So sorry, lost tapes. We will have a go. Loch Ness. It's not really my thing. I saw something on internet today where somebody says they've got the clearest footage of the Loch Ness monster, and there's a YouTube. I'm sure it's either stills on the YouTube, but I've not even clicked on them to have a look because it doesn't fascinate me that much. Although I should imagine it does you if you've got these photographs, and I do remember looking at them, and I do remember seeing this like there's something underwater, but to put it into context. We've just looked at Brian and Alison's footage, and we don't know what we're looking at. We could be looking at somebody with infrared torches, but we've got something there. The photographs that you had are pretty vague, but if you could fill in the pieces, the blanks, even with the vague photographs, it just makes it so much more interesting for people. Do you not think? I don't know. Let's have a look here. I'm probably going to end up putting a few more of these same questions up now. A bit looks of it. Let's have a look. Oh, I like that thumbnail, me. Paul, do you think? I wish my head were as slim. Well, maybe not as slim as that, but do you think the phenomenon knows who you, Linny, etc., and plays up to visitors? Do you know? I'm absolutely. I don't think it knows per se who people are, but I think it knows vulnerabilities, and I don't just mean up there. I think we all know what we're talking about. I think whatever it is that's interacting, it knows our weaknesses. It knows when there's an emotional rift in a person, and finds its way in. And there'll be people in here who'll know what I'm talking about. We've been up there, and things have happened when there's been, I don't know, a little bit of sadness, maybe in the air. So, yeah, I think it knows our weaknesses, Rod. It's, a great question. Let's have a look. Panther. I don't know who Panther is, but good to see you, Panther. Rod, Mag Sue. There's Lee doing that. Oh, we'll just put that up. Remember, buy Wolflands on DVD or rent it on Amazon Prime. And if it were bought today or in week, it'll definitely be in post the next day. That's the way it is. And if you're going to buy the Truth Proof books off the truthproof.uk website, which Don kindly maintains for me, Don Lodge, if you're buying them overseas, go via the eBay link because I can send them global shipping. And yeah, that's all good. Let's have a look here. Let's have a look. It's important to push every avenue for awareness to councils, MPs, establishment. They all need to pursue the truth and not keep it in a tight group. But the problem is, and I assume we're talking about unexplained phenomena, the problem is even in UFO groups, even in groups that are actively hunting or searching out for ghost spirit activity, there's so many personalities and people that claim to know that it always ends up in conflict. I mean, we as a group, we get on great. Very rarely not even very rarely, we don't have words. But I could guarantee that we're not selective in who comes up to these places. And we're all as kind to them, but most of the people, they're pretty transient, and you might see them 2 or 3 times a year. And we look forward to seeing quite a lot of people. But there are other people that come up and they're not really that interested. You get people coming up. It's almost like people who are looking at wanting to buy a used car and they're walking around it kicking tires. They're not that bothered. And they're the people that kill the atmosphere. They're the people that, in a way, kill the phenomena because we switch off and you're just going through the motions. And, you spend time up there, 2, 3, 4 days a week, sometimes hours in dark places. Last night it were raining. It were raining. It were raining when we went. It eased off, and it were raining when we left. We went out up there, and we're still with expectation or the potential for something to happen. So I don't know. Let's have a look. Rod, right? he's got another question, has he? This Swan fella. So, previous to my first question, it must be cognitive phenomenon rather than reactive. But there is a phenomena, Rod, isn't there? And people with or without the human input. All I'm saying is, it's kind of like the thing, does anybody hear a tree fall in the forest? But I just think that we are the ingredients that ignite it. And I just wonder if we create the phenomena. The phenomena exists, but if we put concentrated thought into it, I mean, let's face it, look at the things that people are reporting seeing on those cliff tops. You know, there's not loads and loads of reports there's loads of reports of the unexplained phenomena, the light forms, loads of them in lifeboat logs and Coast Guard logs going back decades and decades. That can't be denied. But these cryptid type creatures, we've got stuff like that coming out of Danes Dyke that go back into the annals of folklore. So has it always been there on cliff tops? Or has somebody gone with the expectation of seeing something like that? And I don't know, just laid those seeds and they've germinated. Is that too crazy to think about? You know, the tulpas of the mind, the thought forms. Do you know, if some cultures can think that we can actually create beings, if they may not even be physical, with the power of thought, a tulpa, then who's to say that in some instances that's not happening here? Is through thought we create the image and then just add flesh and bone and substance to it? I don't know. It's difficult, isn't it? Right. And I didn't realise at the time, to be honest with you. So we'll just show that. Yeah, please press the like and subscribe if you could to this stream that you're watching now. And if you visit the YouTube channel, do the same for us. And I see Lee's put this hype button up. This is something that's new, I believe, to YouTube. And it just helps promote channel a little bit. It doesn't cost a penny. So if you see the hype option, press it. Please do. And it just helps. I mean, because, you know, I go out to these places, we put a bit of effort in, we film these objects, we try to. We talk about what people have seen, talk about what people have experienced. And it's not a 5-minute job to put it out there. And I wouldn't do it if I didn't enjoy it, by the way. So if you don't press like and subscribe, I'm still going to do it. But just a little bit of support would help. Let's have a look here. Could it have been a natural phenomenon? Why not? Do you know, who's to say, Gray, that there isn't, you know, we just haven't caught up to some of the natural phenomena that's out there. And you know, we talk about the fae. Friday night, I spoke to a guy called Andy, who I've not spoke to for a long time, and I'm really happy to speak with him. And this is the guy that allowed me and Chris Turner to use the footage of the little, what he thought was a little elemental being, a fairy. And he's a real clever guy. He's a craftsman, and he can create lots of fabulous things in his workshop. And he created this big door, like a church door, about 2-inch thick, beautiful thing, and almost a secret garden within his garden, a circle of stones. And he picked his grandson up and said, "Shall we go see the fairies?" And this little thing appeared. And like we've said before about the elemental beings, the true nature spirits, the fae, who's to say if they're true to what people say these things can do, as in appear as different things? I've said it loads of times, people. I know I'm not breaking new ground here, but who's to say that these beings that people call the fae aren't the same things that are showing us apparitions, if you like, of werewolf type entities and Bigfoot? Because people often associate twinkling lights and spheres of light before these things are seen. And who's to say it's not the fae? You know, who's to say it is? You know, one way or other, you take it how you want. But I do believe that these things exist, and I do believe that if something had been tied to the land for hundreds, if not thousands of years, and then a group of people went in and started destroying it, how do you get rid of them? You just present us something like that. You're not going to hang around, I wouldn't, would you? So let's have a look. We'll just do a few more questions, and then Oh, is Jeremy in? Hi, Jeremy. Good to see you. I hope you've been okay with them fires. I hope you've not got a bad throat, because Jeremy's up there amongst all that smoke. So not brilliant. Let's have a look here. Hey, Paul, send the footage to. He's good at, absolutely, yeah. We'll send the footage and see what can be done with it. Incidentally, Chris, a good friend of ours, came down from Durham earlier in the week, and he's just really keen, really sharp eyes for finding quirky things in footage. And when I did the short that I've put on about it glided through the corn, which I did with Gareth, he's found some strange things in footage. And not just, we looked at Alison and Brian's footage earlier, and you can see the insects flitting about. We know what that is. He's found a few anomalies, and it looks like something structured flying across. I actually found something myself in it before he brought this up, and that's only in a couple of frames, and I just think it looks like two people just flashing across the screen. So there are other things that we've got to work on, aren't they? Yeah, let's have a look. So send the footage. Right, let's just have a look here. Looks like, so we're going back to Alison and Brian's, because spontaneous combustion or some unexploded ordnance. Sorry. Yeah, but remember that they went up there and there's no signs of anything burnt or damaged. So I think we're not going to know what it is, but they've obviously got a camera pointing up there. Let's see if it happens again. Let's have a look. Dragonborn's in. Good to see you. Yorkshire Dangler. That's a blue shift. And I'm going to just about wrap this in a minute, guys, if that's okay with you. And really, thanks for support, Paul, Neolithic carved stone was found in 2004 after the Moor fire of Filingdale Moor. Yeah, but they found more, Steve. The book that Bob produced, that he got for me, there's lots of areas where these stones were found. And I mean, I know you guys in chat, we know that we like the unexplained phenomena, and we're only talking about stones, but when you think about how long they've laid there undisturbed, and maybe thousands of years ago, people have carved into those stones. Just to me, sounds a bit sad, doesn't it? Just to touch them and just feel that history is really something, and just tells you, doesn't it, in a deserted place like Filingdale's Moor, which is absolutely deserted, that there's been activity there, there's been life there. Probably a lot more than we sort of give credit to. Right, let's have a look where we go with Andrew. If they send me the details, Al Durham, yeah, that's good. Between us, we'll be happy to chat with them. That's brilliant. So I think Brian and Alison will be listening to this. So if you are, let me know. If not, tomorrow morning I'll reach out to them, Andy, and we'll see whether you and Andy can speak to them and set about doing a little bit of investigation with that one. And nobody better placed than you two. So that would be good. Very curious, Paul at Bempton. Spot on. Very curious, Paul at Bempton, Lee says. Untouched mind is... What's that? I wonder if an untouched mind is more tasty. I wonder what it is, Zeno. I wonder what it is that they're tapping into. It's almost as though they can... Like you're hearing my voice now. It's almost as though they can hear our voices, our thoughts as audible words. And I think we all know that, or the people in chat that's been touched by the phenomena of actually the mind speak, and that covers all aspects of the unexplained, the mediums with the clairaudience, the Bigfoot phenomena, the alien abduction phenomena, all aspects of the unexplained. Does that tell us that it's one type of entity, one type of phenomena that's responsible for it all, and just putting a different mask on? Or is it many things, as we've said loads of times, all employing the same type of science, if we want to term it as science, to tap into our minds and speak to us within us minds? And that's where it's frightening, when people, not when people say, but that's where it's interesting when people say, why didn't you get a photograph? And, why didn't you do this? I mean, it's like John said, I reached for my torch on the cliff tops and put it on and it had gone. So if the intelligence behind the sphere of light, let's just play with the idea that it can read our mind and hear our thoughts, it knows it's going to happen, doesn't it? I went for my camera to take a picture and it were gone. You know, and I know it sounds too convenient for the skeptic. Why does nobody ever get a picture? Everybody's got a phone. I haven't got an answer to it. It don't make what I saw any less believable in my mind, or what you guys saw and experienced in your lives. But anyway, there we go. Let's have a look. Let's have a look. I see. Don't know what you're saying there, mate. Is there any times of year that any? I'm not sure. I think we're looking at any particular year that's more active. Should we say 2009 were very active? If that's what we're saying, Gavin, I'm not certain, mate. Oh, brilliant sighting in the week. That were all down here, Gavin. Amazing, brilliant having questions, but look at that lot. I'd done all them to talk about today, and Gavin sent me a report from a friend of his from Hornsey. Only let's just have a look. It's on his short report because I hope to get to speak to this guy. There we go. Right, and then we'll say good night. So 26th of August. So we're not long gone. 7:15. Just had a call from a friend. I don't want his name given out, but he's willing to talk to me now. Bank holiday Sunday, so that was the 24th of August, just gone in the evening. Don't know what time. Had a sighting near Hornsey, over to the east side, over the sea. He described seeing a glowing bluish white orb skipping across the sky. That's interesting, isn't it? It skipped across the sky 4 or 5 times and then shooting off at great speed to what he described as into a portal. Don't know. He was with his sister, brother, and mother, so not a lone sighting. They all saw the same thing. So hopefully, fingers crossed, if you're watching this, obviously you want your name omitting, and that's what we'd do. But if you want to give me more details, we might be able to fill a few more gaps in on that one. But they're the sightings that I like because, you know, we've got a date, we've got a time, and if you put that out there, it might take a bit to filter through, but somebody else might just say, do you know something? I saw that. So yeah, fascinating, and thank you. Let's have a look. So there's more questions here, guys, but I'm going to say good night from myself, Gemma, Lee, Alison, and everybody in chat that's taking the time to, spend an hour and a half with us tonight. So I really appreciate the support. All being well, we'll see you Thursday, and I'll say good night. Okay? Night, everyone. Bye-bye.
Oh, wow.
Saw it twice, so I was like, oh my god.
That was just weird.
I always used to see a light coming up,
Yeah.
like a headlight, but there was nobody there.